It's intense. If you want to give it a word, this CD, this album, this record it's going to be intense. The more we just started writing together, the more we were coming up with just killer music, and we're like, man, these are great songs. And then we just kind of started moving in the direction of just making a second CD.
I truly believe this album blows the last one out of the water. We've been working so much harder on this one.
We're looking at a project now that when we pour our heart out, it's obvious that when we pour our heart out into these lyrics, it's something that resonates with all of us. Is this struggle we know is the struggle of sin.
Our music is now becoming a little more complicated and more aggressive, so we're kind of drifting away from that old sound.
If you want to hear just great music with a very positive message and songs that you can relate to, then you should buy this album for those reasons.
The moment I died and opened my eyes, well, maybe I just want you to see the man that I used to be, 'cause then you know that the change is him in me. Only thing you should change is from the head to the heart.
Some of my youth students had approached me and said, hey, we want to start a band. And I said, okay, you find the musicians and then I'll start the band or whatever. And then I got them, and then I got John Williams and Robbie Reed to join, and we just started doing worship rock, and it was just kind of like, let's just go around leading worship and stuff, and it was a lot of fun.
I auditioned about a couple weeks later, and then we had a trial run. I went to a couple practices and played a show, and from there I was just in.
Well, Cole came up one day and he was like, hey, do you want to play guitar in a band or something? I was like, okay. That's my interview voice. Yeah.
Well, Cole asked me to be in a band.
No, I said, all right.
I said, all right. I said, well, I reckon.
I can't imagine a life without you, 'cause it's all for you. Yeah, it's all for you, God.
It's hard to take anything seriously when you're standing in a booth with a guy wearing pajamas. So that gets pretty fun. And then he and Jared just play off each other, and it gets pretty crazy sometimes. You wonder how we get any work done at all with those two in the same room.
Right? Yeah. It took us a long time to figure out what we're gonna do.
We've gone through some member changes. We've gone now 3 years, I think we've been together. We've gone through some member changes, and I think now we're really starting to click.
Some of these guys are really awesome. Like Delphi, you can look at the kid. His real name's Andrew, but we call him Delphi. But you can look at the kid and be like, there's no way that kid could play drums. But he's one of the best drummers I've heard in my life, and he's, 19 years old?
I come from a progressive rock metal background, so I had a very progressive feel to it. I guess because each like I said, each person in the band adds their own flavor. So as I joined the band, it kind of shifted, I guess. It got our music is now becoming a little more complicated and more aggressive, so we're kind of drifting away from that old sound.
Just kind of moved into a rock band. Our ministry has even changed, because when we first started, we wanted to just do worship rock and just lead worship for churches and things like that. But the more we started writing rock songs, the more we started playing in like more secular venues and stuff. We realized that people of other bands and rock bands and things like that, they need a minister to them, and they're kind of out there on their own. So we like to be the voice of Jesus in the bars and in the clubs for the other bands mainly. They go through hard times too. We want it to, when it gets down to their struggles in life, that they say, I've got no one to turn to, but we want to give them a chance to say, hey, there's those guys that are in ThisNewHeart. They seem to be clinging to something that might be true. I want to find out, and it just gives us an open door for them. So,
Oh, break these chains from me. Break these chains from me.
one of our main roots is worship music. So going back to our worship covers is always a great thing. We're doing a version of Like a Lion, and I think it sounds awesome. Throwing a little bit of stuff that we've never used before, so it's pretty cool.
When we set out to record this record, we wanted to make a worship album, and we wanted to do some covers, and we were writing some worship stuff that was really kind of cool. It was kind of different than anything we had done, and so we're like, let's just invest so much into making a worship album.
With our first CD, we have a CD that we released last February called The World Will Know under TMG Records. And it didn't really do anything, but the difference between these two albums is with that album, we had different musicians. It was me, John Robbie, and two other members that we started the band with, and at that time, we hadn't just opened up who we were as a band, and it was really just I was writing the songs and I was teaching the band members parts. But now what's interesting is that we have 5 guys, myself included, in this band, and this was the first time that we had come together and said, I'm going to bring what I have, my style, to this and mesh it with your style. It wasn't just, we'll do whatever Cole says and we're just going to record Cole's parts that he writes. We're going to come up with our own parts. And it was like, when we started doing that, it was just, we came up with this amazing music that is just so much fun to play.
There were about 2 songs that, it was Walls and What About Us, that were not completely done when I came in. So I didn't really help with the writing of the music, but of course I did the drums for it, so I wrote the drum parts for both of those songs. As a whole, yeah, it really kind of makes me realize kind of where my style was going, musically, where I'm going.
No, it'd be like ThisNewHeart came in with their songs, and some of them were recorded before, so they knew how it sounded on a record. But most of the songs they just heard from playing them live. So a lot of times with bands and with artists, stuff live translates different on a CD. So that's where we have to make different changes on different vocals, different kind of harmonies that you do live but don't totally make sense on a record.
You're walking, you should have
It's so high.
It would have hit the cushion.
It's just really high.
I
I recorded them last year, and just like I've seen them grow from like the time we recorded last year, and I've grown too. So it's been kind of a growing process for the both of us, and it's just been a lot of fun. They're all crazy, and they've eaten a lot of candy.
Can we have like whales singing in the background?
I can have whales on reason, yeah.
Come on in, I'll show you around.
I mean, I like that better than before.
For this album, for this record, we've been working with Jon Santana, and it's been really, really fun. He's about 6 or 7 years younger than me, but he's got a whole different new spin on where the music is now. He brings a lot to the table. I mean, he's a producer, but he's also into dubstep and house music and DJ and all the whatnot. And so he brings that element to it, and kind of has a fresh ear on things. And it's been really interesting working with him. Haven't seen him work to his fullest potential yet, because that's all going to come in post-production. And we're still in the middle of tracking right now. But I'm really excited to see what that's going to look like and what it's going to sound like.
This is the vocal room in here. And it's just an acoustic room where we can isolate the sound, but this is where we track all the vocals and gang vocals, and we put our guitar amps in here and stuff like that. So.
over the time that we've been a band, we've really grown attached to a church called New Walk in Zephyr Hills.
We built really good relationships with the people out there, and when we first were a band and we weren't that good, we were still going out there, and those kids, they just treated us like rock stars, and we were horrible in the beginning. And they just showed us this unconditional love, and it was just awesome.
When we started, Cole had came out to me with the idea of getting the fans involved, and he had came up with the idea of the fans doing group vocals for 3 songs on the record. So we took some of my equipment to New Walk, and we set up in their gym.
God's not dead, he's surely alive, he's living on the inside, roaring like a lion.
In making the CD, we were like, you know what? We need to give them some ownership because they really helped us form who we are.
God's not dead, he's surely alive, he's living on the inside.
And so they got to sing on that. And then afterwards, we put together this like worship set, and we just played some worship for them and played one of our originals, Die to Yourself. And that was a lot of fun.
I came alive the moment I died.
So it was cool to have kids that we feel special, that we've grown to love, to be on our music video.
I can't imagine a life without you, 'cause it's all for you, yeah, it's all for you, God.
I'm only getting like with between working in the studio, I'm only getting like 2 hours of sleep at night. But I literally lay up and I lay down in the bed and I feel like I'm gonna crash because I'm only getting like 2 hours of sleep. But I seriously stare at the ceiling and just smile thinking about all these songs because they're just so good. And I'm so proud to be a part of it now instead of just trying to make sure everything goes my way. And it's really amazing.
I came alive the moment I died and opened my eyes. Well, maybe I just want you to see the man that I used to be, 'cause then you know that the change.
Are we ready? I suppose. Take a deep breath in. Breathe out. Yep.
How does that feel?
It was cool.
I found out a Clydesdale's a cow.
No, it's a horse, dude.
Oh. I just saw like a baby cow laying on the ground like this.
And somebody told
And
you.
that said Clydesdale. It was on the news. And I was like, that's a Clydesdale? That's not a Clydesdale. This is a Clydesdale.
Anyway, he said it was derogatory, but what he meant was provocative. Because we take our guitars and we kind of do like this, and it's just kind of weird. And he's like, no, this is derogatory. And I was like, derogatory? And Jimmy looked at me, he's like, provocative.
Know that the change is in me. The only thing you should change is from the head to the heart.